One thing that I am tired of seeing on this platform is the Ashanti hate. Literally, the Ashanti hate. Like, this woman is so happy right now. You know, she is content with what her life is right now.
Nobody is talking about this the way it should be talked about, but we are. And you'll want to wait and watch the clip to see what's really going on, because the drama surrounding Ashanti and Nelly is boiling over again, and it's more explosive than ever.
One thing that I am tired of seeing on this platform is the Ashanti hate. Literally, the Ashanti hate. Like, this woman is so happy right now. You know, she is content with what her life is right now. And you guys are so miserable that you're trying to pick this woman apart. Oh, she need to change her stylist. She needs to get a stylist. Why she on the stage wearing that on the stage? Or why is she singing like that? Or she needs to lose a little weight. Or she needs to do this. She needs to do that. Like, what's the hate for? She is happy. She is content on what type of body she got right now. She's content on what family she got right now. She's content. Maybe you guys should go out there and find out what makes you happy. What's gonna make you happy? Because sitting on TikTok talking about somebody else's soul, them, that just makes you a miserable soul. That's just your projection on somebody else's life. Because yours is not as good as you think making it out to be. That's the problem. You're projecting your miserable on somebody else. That's not okay. Let's fix it.
Even after tying the knot and building a family together, Ashanti is still facing a tidal wave of backlash. Critics and online voices won't let go of one ugly label: husband snatcher. Yes, you heard that right. Even as a wife, even as a mother-to-be, even as half of one of the most celebrated couples in entertainment right now, Ashanti is being dragged with the same accusations that haunted her the moment she reunited with Nelly. But this time, the conversation isn't one-sided. New receipts are surfacing, and insiders close to the couple are stepping forward with a bold message: stop the backlash. The receipts show that Ashanti's hands are clean, that her reunion with Nelly was about love, timing, and growth, not betrayal, not stealing, not some underhanded move. So why won't the internet let her live? Some say it's because fans can't get over Nelly's past. They remember his long relationship with Shantel Jackson, the ex who was by his side for nearly a decade. They remember the engagement rumors, the red carpet appearances, the public affection. And to this day, some people believe Shantel was owed a different ending to her love story with Nelly. But here's the bombshell. Nelly himself has gone on record to shut this down. His words: "I have nothing for my ex-girlfriend Shantel Jackson." That one sentence, blunt and final, was his way of telling the world the past is the past, and his loyalty now lies entirely with Ashanti. Still, haters aren't buying it. They argue that no matter what receipts come out, the timeline looks messy. They whisper about overlap, about secrets, about Nelly jumping ship from one relationship straight into another. But is that the truth, or just the internet refusing to accept that people move on, even celebrities? Insiders are painting a different picture. They claim that Nelly and Shantel were over long before he ever got back with Ashanti. They point to receipts, from contract disputes to social media silence, showing that the cracks had been forming for years. And when Nelly crossed paths with Ashanti again, it wasn't about betrayal. It was about a love that found its way back. Now, here's where things get even deeper. Ashanti isn't just staying quiet through this storm. Fans caught her subtle shade during a performance when she dedicated lyrics to a real man who doesn't let the past define the present. Many believe it was her way of answering the backlash without naming names. But does this put the issue to rest? Or is this just the beginning of a bigger fight between fans, insiders, and the couple themselves? Stick around, because in the next part of this story, we're going to break down exactly why the husband snatcher label refuses to die, and the shocking comparisons people are now making between Ashanti and other women in the industry who face the same ugly accusations. The internet doesn't forgive, and when it comes to Ashanti, the internet definitely doesn't forget. Despite receipts, despite Nelly's public loyalty, despite the wedding bands glistening on their hands, the hate continues to pour in. Comment sections are flooded with the same recycled word, husband snatcher. And it's not just trolls. We're talking blogs, Twitter threads, and even fan forums where people pick apart the timeline like detectives, convinced they'll find proof of betrayal. But why this label? Why this obsession with tearing Ashanti down when she finally found her way back to the man she's loved for decades? Some fans argue that the backlash comes from a deep-rooted cultural bias, the idea that women, not men, are blamed when relationships collapse or shift. Nelly is rarely called out for leaving Shantel behind. Instead, Ashanti bears the brunt, branded as the villain in someone else's love story. And here's where it gets even more heated. People are comparing Ashanti's backlash to the scandals faced by other high-profile women. Think about Alicia Keys, who was accused of home-wrecking when she got with Swizz Beatz. Think about Angelina Jolie, whose entire career was shadowed by claims she stole Brad Pitt from Jennifer Aniston. And even Beyoncé, who was accused of snatching Jay-Z from a longtime partner when their relationship first went public. The pattern is undeniable. Women are painted as husband snatchers, while men escape as if they were passive players in their own love lives. That's the same energy being thrown at Ashanti, and it's exhausting. Now, insiders are begging for a change. One anonymous source close to the couple reportedly said, "This is bigger than a celebrity breakup. This is about respecting a woman's happiness. Ashanti waited her whole career for this kind of love. People need to stop dragging her into the past and let her live in the present." But here's the twist. Even some fans of Ashanti don't know where to stand. They cheer for her happiness, yes. They post heart emojis under her pictures with Nelly. But in the same breath they ask, what about Shantel? The ex still has her supporters, and those supporters feel she was discarded, left behind after years of loyalty. That tension between celebrating Ashanti and sympathizing with Shantel is fueling the storm. It's almost as if fans have split into two camps. Team Ashanti, who say love wins, and Team Shantel, who say loyalty should have been rewarded. And caught in the middle is Nelly, the man whose past decisions are now being litigated by millions online. Here's where it gets more dramatic. Some online detectives claim to have spotted subtle digs from Shantel herself. Whether it's a cryptic Instagram caption or liking shady posts, people are convinced Shantel is throwing silent shade at her ex and his new wife. Is it true, or is the internet just reaching? That depends on who you ask. Meanwhile, Ashanti herself hasn't directly addressed the husband snatcher narrative head-on, and that silence is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it makes her look dignified, unbothered, above the drama. On the other hand, critics spin her silence into guilt, claiming if she had nothing to hide, she'd shut it down herself. But here's where we pause. What if the receipts insiders are pointing to are stronger than people think? What if Ashanti truly isn't the villain in this story? And the real story is about Nelly's growth, his mistakes, and his final decision to choose the woman he believes is his forever. Because the internet thrives on speculation, but nothing shuts down rumors faster than cold, hard evidence. And in this case, the receipts are crystal clear. Nelly has made it plain that he and Shantel Jackson are done. No ties, no lingering feelings, no unfinished business waiting in the shadows. In a resurfaced interview that fans are now circulating, Nelly was asked directly about his past with Shantel. His response: "That chapter is closed. I wish her well, but I've moved on. I have no interest in going backwards." Strong words. But here's the kicker. He didn't just stop there. He doubled down, making it clear that Ashanti is his present, his future, and his final choice. Now let's rewind for a second. Nelly and Shantel were together for years, nearly a decade in fact. They were even rumored to be engaged at one point. That kind of history doesn't just vanish overnight. So of course, when fans saw him reunite with Ashanti, their first instinct was suspicion. How do you just walk away from a long-term partner and dive back into an old flame? But here's where the receipts matter. Insiders close to Shantel have revealed that she and Nelly were already on shaky ground long before Ashanti came back into the picture. Their relationship had quietly fizzled, with distance and different life goals driving them apart. By the time Nelly and Ashanti reconnected, the breakup had been sealed, and yet, the internet spun a different story. Instead of seeing a man who walked away from one relationship before starting another, people saw betrayal. They saw overlap. They saw a husband snatcher. But Nelly himself cleared it up in one telling moment. "I don't want nothing from the past, and I don't want my past to interfere with what I've built now. Ashanti is my wife, and she's my focus." That statement alone should have ended the conversation. But of course, this is the internet. And when has the internet ever let the truth get in the way of a juicy scandal? What's fascinating is how this backlash says more about the fans than the couple themselves. For years, fans invested in Nelly and Shantel as if it were a fairy tale destined for marriage. They followed every public outing, every red carpet appearance, and every social media post. They built a narrative in their heads, one where Shantel would eventually become Mrs. Nelly. So when that fantasy collapsed, they needed someone to blame. And Ashanti, the woman who swooped back into the picture, became the perfect scapegoat. Now, insiders are saying Ashanti feels the weight of this backlash deeply. One source revealed, "She tries to ignore it, but it hurts. She waited years to find happiness again, only to be painted as the villain. She's not a homewrecker. She's just a woman in love." And if you need further proof, just look at how Ashanti and Nelly carry themselves now. They're not hiding. They're not sneaking around. They're walking red carpets together, posting loved-up pictures, and building a blended family out in the open. You don't do that if you're guilty of some scandalous affair. You do that when you know your love is legitimate. But here's where it gets even juicier. Fans have uncovered moments where Shantel herself admitted in past interviews that she and Nelly had issues. From disagreements about timelines to questions about the future, it was clear they weren't aligned. And when you put those statements side by side with Nelly's confession that Ashanti is the one, the picture becomes undeniable. This wasn't theft. This was timing. Still, the question remains, why does the husband snatcher label continue to stick? Why do people refuse to let it go, even when the receipts show otherwise? So here's the real question. Why won't the husband snatcher label go away? If the receipts are clear, if Nelly has spoken, if insiders have explained the timeline, why are people still dragging Ashanti months after tying the knot? The answer lies not just in gossip, but in the psychology of fandom. Fans don't just watch celebrities, they invest in them. They project their own hopes, fears, and ideals onto these stars. For nearly a decade, people watched Nelly and Shantel play out their relationship in public. And in many fans' minds, they weren't just dating. They were a love story they had stock in. Fans rooted for them, envisioned wedding bells, kids, and forever after. So when the fairy tale collapsed, it wasn't just Shantel who lost. The fans felt like they lost too. And who do people blame when a fantasy doesn't play out? They don't blame the man who walked away. They don't blame the natural cracks in a long-term relationship. No, they blame the new woman, the intruder, who supposedly wrecked it all. That's why Ashanti has been carrying this burden of backlash, even though the facts say otherwise. But here's where it gets even more twisted. Fans don't just watch celebrities. The media knows exactly how to exploit this narrative. They project their own hopes, fears, and ideals calling Ashanti a husband snatcher. For nearly a decade, people watched Nelly and Shantel play out their relationship in public. And in many fans' minds, they weren't just dating. Nelly chooses Ashanti. They were a love story. They had loved Shantel Jackson. Fans rooted for them, envisioned wedding bells, kids, and forever after on drama. So when the fairy tale collapsed, it wasn't just Shantel who lost. Even when it's imaginary, the fans felt like they lost too. And let's be real. And who do people blame when a fantasy doesn't play out? She's a superstar. They don't blame the man who walked away. A woman with her own legacy. They don't blame the natural cracks in a long-term relationship. For some people, no, it's easier to tear her down than celebrate the intruder. who
It's
supposedly
easier to say
wrecked
she
it all.
stole something than
That's
to
why
admit
Ashanti
she
has
earned
been
it through
carrying this
patience,
burden of
growth,
backlash,
and
even though
timing.
the facts say otherwise.
Meanwhile, Shantel has
But
largely
here's where it
stayed
gets
quiet.
even more twisted.
She hasn't
The
launched
media
a smear
knows
campaign.
exactly how to exploit
She hasn't
this
done
narrative.
tell-all interviews
Headlines
trashing
calling
Nelly or
Ashanti
Ashanti,
a husband snatcher,
and that
get
silence.
clicks. Social
It
media
only makes
posts
the
pitting her
backlash
against
louder,
Shantel go viral
because fans fill in the blanks
Think about
themselves.
Nelly
They assume
chooses
heartbreak.
Ashanti over
They
long-term
assume
love
betrayal.
Shantel Jackson.
They assume victimhood.
It writes itself. And
The
every
internet
assumption
thrives
turns
on
Ashanti
drama.
into the villain
And
of their
nothing
story.
fuels drama like a love triangle.
But here's the thing.
Even when it's imaginary.
Ashanti knows what
And
it
let's be
feels like
real.
to be broken. Ashanti
She's
isn't just
spoken
any woman. Openly about betrayal
She's a superstar.
before, about
A
heartbreak,
woman with her own
about
legacy,
hitting rock
her
bottom
own
and
fan base,
rebuilding herself
her own
piece
power.
by piece. For some
That's
people,
what makes
it's
this
easier
backlash
to tear
sting
her
even
down
harder.
than celebrate her happiness. After
It's
surviving
easier
so
to say
much,
she stole
finding love
something
again
than to
should have
admit
been
she
her
earned
fairy
it through
tale.
patience, growth,
Instead,
and timing.
The world keeps
Meanwhile,
trying to paint it as
Shantel
a
has
scandal.
largely stayed
and
quiet.
it's not just about Ashanti.
She hasn't launched a
Let's
smear
not forget
campaign.
Nelly in this
She
equation.
hasn't done tell-all interviews
He's made it
trashing Nelly or
abundantly
Ashanti.
clear.
And
He
that
doesn't want
silence,
Shantel. He
it
doesn't
only
want
makes
the
the
past,
backlash louder.
and he doesn't want
Because
any
fans
narrative
fill in the blanks
interfering with the
themselves.
marriage he's building
They
now.
assume heartbreak.
But the media rarely
They assume
frames it that
betrayal.
way.
They
Instead,
assume
they make
victimhood.
Ashanti the subject of
And
controversy
every
while
assumption
Nelly's own
turns
choices
Ashanti
fade into
the
the
villain
background
of their story.
So here's where we
But
stand.
here's the thing.
Ashanti and Nelly
Ashanti
are
knows
publicly
what it
thriving,
feels like
but
to
the
be
label
broken.
of husband snatcher
She's
still
spoken
follows her.
openly about
It's
betrayal
unfair,
before,
it's exhausting,
about
and it
heartbreak,
raises one big
about
question.
hitting rock bottom
How
and
much
rebuilding
longer will she
herself
have
piece
to
by
fight
piece.
this stigma? That's what makes this backlash sting even harder. After surviving so much, finding love again should have been her fairy tale. Instead, the world keeps trying to paint it as a scandal. And it's not just about Ashanti. Let's not forget Nelly in this equation. He's made it abundantly clear. He doesn't want Shantel, he doesn't want the past, and he doesn't want any narrative interfering with the marriage he's building now. But the media rarely frames it that way. Instead, they make Ashanti the subject of controversy while Nelly's own choices fade into the background. So here's where we stand. Ashanti and Nelly are publicly thriving, but the label of husband snatcher still follows her. It's unfair, it's exhausting, and it raises one big question. How much longer will she have to fight this stigma?